Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. We're going to be talking about 10 absolutely fancy and fabulous fragrances for all of your special occasions situations. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means because it doesn't always have to mean a formal affair, although we tend to think of that when you think of special occasion. Before we dive into the fragrances, I want to take a minute to say a huge thank you to everyone who participated in the giveaway in the video that I posted on December 26th, the day after Christmas. That was my subscriber appreciation video. We had an epic giveaway with 12 items. 12 winners have been selected and they are posted to my community tab. If you don't know what it means when people say on my community tab or community page, if you go to the content creator's YouTube page, their channel, there are different tabs there, and there's a tab that says community, and it's where you can post something in static form like you might on Instagram. So it's not necessarily a video. It might be a link to a video, but it could just be an announcement. It could be a poll. It could be a picture. It could be any number of things that are intended to just be a static post that isn't a video. So that's what we mean by a community tab. So congratulations to all the winners. I wanted to say a special thank you about the information that you provided. I didn't think to share on December 26th when I posted that video that I would keep your information confidential, your personal information. You shared your address and your emails and all of that with me, your full names, your full government names, friends. And so I appreciate that you trusted me with that information. I realized that when I downloaded the spreadsheet from the Google Forms with over 700 entries. I think there were like 768 entries or something. A few of those were duplicates and a few were international that I had to unfortunately delete because they were not eligible. But the rest of them were legitimate. I mean, it was something like 750 legitimate entries. There were a lot. And it occurred to me to share with you all the importance of data privacy to me. So thank you for sharing and trusting that I would handle your information appropriately. That said, I hope that you all enjoy your gifts. Now, let's talk about these 10 absolutely fantastic fragrances. Anytime I do a video like this that is themed, I always feel bad about leaving out so many beautiful fragrances that really belong in the lineup. But you can only choose so many and we only have so long for the video unless we want to like camp out all day and night and do a super long marathon video. Maybe we'll do that one day, but not today. I have picked 10 gorgeous fragrances. Some of these are polarizing, heads up. Actually, maybe they're all polarizing now that I'm looking at them. I happen to think from my own personal taste and from my own personal experience that these feel fabulous when you wear them. You feel very put together. You feel regal. You feel like your best self. You feel like you're ready to step into a room and own it. So when we talk about formal occasions, it could really be anything where you want to feel dressed up and fancy. Honestly, that could just be like a date night with your significant other. That could be dinner with your friends where you have the opportunity to put something on a little bit fancier than you might day to day. And you go out and you want to smell really, really captivating when you enter the room. Okay. Yes, this can also include formal affairs like a ball, like a gala, like a big fundraising event or something like that, where you might have your formal wear on, your evening gowns, your beautiful dresses, your beautiful tuxedos and suits, and all of the rest. Or perhaps you just want to be sitting on your couch and be amazing smelling. All of the above can be the case. Without further delay, the first three of these fragrances are scent profiles that I think are very comfortable in the public setting, meaning that other folks, particularly those of us that are a little bit older in age, a little bit more mature with some grays in our hair, we are familiar with these kinds of scents and they bring a certain amount of nostalgia, memory, and glamour of yesteryear. So starting off with one of the most classics in this category, I'm going to start with Coco, and this is the Eau de Toilette from Chanel. I had the Eau de Parfum. It was not appreciated in my house. It was a little bit too deep for the folks here. So it actually went to one of you, my fragrance friend. You know who you are. Hey, girl, hey. And I kept the Eau de Toilette, which seems to be a little bit more palatable for folks. This is, for me, a very matriarchal scent. What I mean by that is when I think about who wore the Chanel fragrances in the past, in the decades of the past, if you will, I tend to think about the older women in my family, my grandmother, my aunts, my mom, all of my mom's friends, they love themselves some Chanel, some old school Yves Saint Laurent, Oscar de la Renta, Calvin Klein, all of the old powerhouse fragrances of the past. They were all about it. And this is one of them. This is a spicy, ambery fragrance that is like a kitchen sink type of deal where you have so many notes in there sort of playing together in this amalgam of this beautiful, elegant, old school, timeless glamour. You have to have, by the way, big personality or not be afraid of having big personality to wear any one of the fragrances that I'm going to share with you today. These are not for the shy among you. No, unless you spray super lightly. I mean, I could see a spray of this going into a space. But for me, if I were going to a party, I would probably give myself a good, I don't know, 5 sprays of this. You see, I haven't worn it a lot because it is a strong fragrance. I have to say the bottle on the eau de toilette, we could do better, Chanel. We could do better. We have a plastic cap and just this plain bottle. I would like to see something a little bit more regal on the top, something a little bit more fancy, ostentatious, showy. No, that wouldn't work. A hint about what's to come. If you recognize this top, put it down in the comments what you think is coming. Anyway, a better top we need. This fragrance has a little bit of everything for everyone. Definitely some spiciness to it. A good healthy dose of cloves. There are resins like myrrh and a strong amber accord. I would say it's a very amber heavy fragrance, but in an airy and soft way. Some ambers can be really, deep and sticky, and they can feel almost like the consistency of honey, if you think about that. This one is more so like a creamy amber, if that makes sense, and has a little bit of lightness of being to it, almost like a whipped cream amber, if I had to put a texture to the way that the base of this fragrance comes across for me. Spices, a little bit of floral, some rose in the fragrance. There's vanilla and tonka bean to add femininity and softness to it. This is a pretty long wearing fragrance, a pretty projecting fragrance. You don't need a lot, as you can see. This is not one that I wear often. I consider this a very special occasion type of fragrance where I need to be in the mood to wear it or it will wear me quite easily. So I don't pull for this often. And I ended up wearing the Coco version, the EDP, a number of times trying to get my family here to like it. So while I said that the first 3 are mass appealing scents, that doesn't always necessarily mean in my house. I think the general public, though, recognizes this scent, appreciates it for the classic Chanel fragrance that it is. And even though you may think it's overpowering on you, so long as you don't overspray, give it a good 4 or 5 sprays and let it be, friends. And let the other folks around you really enjoy the masterpiece that this is. So now here's an interesting thing. I purchased this from Ulta. And when I go into my local Ulta, they still have a Chanel section, but I don't see this on the Ulta website. Am I not searching for it correctly? Do you see it? It's still on the Sephora website. And certainly you can get Chanel from your major retail department stores that sell Chanel. So there you go for that one. The next fragrance is fantastic for occasions where you want to smell highly feminine and where there's good ventilation because it can be a cloying fragrance if you overspray. You have to be a white floral lover and you have to love sweet fragrances for this. But if you want that like uber feminine, almost leaning into super bridal territory, like winter bride sweetness kind of territory. In fact, maybe the winter wedding is the formal event that we are talking about here. This is Elie Saab Le Parfum. There's an in white version, there's a bridal version, and you can look those up online. In fact, the in white version is more white floral and softer than this version here, not quite as like maybe sickly sweet as this one can get. And it is on my Mercari. I am partying with my Elie Saab in white. We have had our time and it's ready for her to leave the nest and grow her wings and go out there and enjoy her life somewhere else. But I am keeping this one, Le Parfum, which is a very strong, highly feminine fragrance. Mostly orange flower. When you think about orange flower, it's a white floral, but it is very sweet and like it's a heavy tone to it, if you will. Beautiful jasmine in the fragrance. Again, the jasmine accompanied with everything else comes across pretty thick. There is a strong honey note that gives this fragrance a lot of base and a lot of sweetness and patchouli to ground the fragrance. This is another one of those sort of stereotypically matriarchal scents. When you think about the auntie who smelled super sweet, almost where like her hug, the fragrance from her hug suffocated you. That's this kind of fragrance. And so it has that sort of nostalgia to it. I would say this one, Coco, is a little bit edgier, a little bit more sort of avant-garde and modern. This is a very, very traditional, heavy, sweet floral scent, and it's gorgeous. Again, one that you don't have to overspray. I have worn this a handful of times since I purchased it and made barely a dent because a few sprays will take you a long, long way. This is really projecting and very long lasting. And like I said, can be overwhelming to another nose when you first spray it on. This is the kind of fragrance that you want to spray yourself on and give yourself 30 minutes to an hour before you leave the house because it needs some time to calm down on your skin. But it is gorgeous, a very gloriously sweet, white, floral, traditional type of smell. You need to like honey. The honey in here is very strong, very prominent, very thick fragrance. So one that would be fantastic for a winter wedding, as I mentioned, or something along those lines. I would wear this into late spring. I would wear this in summer, but sparingly. I would spray lightly because this can get really overwhelming on the skin in heat. But a gorgeous, gorgeous fragrance, affordable. You can find this in the neighborhood of $60-something. Try Joma Shop. I have a link below. I'm an affiliate with them, and you can shop through there for this and some of the other fragrances. I'll try to mention where you can find these. And I would also suggest looking on FragranceNet and sites like that, other discounters if you don't like shopping through Joma Shop. But fabulous. Bottle's really pretty too. It looks like a cut gem, which is kind of cool. I forgot to mention before I started that one of my goals was to not have more than one from a house. So these are 10 different houses represented in this lineup. And I did that intentionally because it's very easy for me to associate special occasion with the next house that I'm going to talk about. I had the most problem narrowing down to just one choice from Tiziana Terenzi because there's so many of those fragrances that are beautiful powerhouse fragrances, and they have beautiful bottles to match the idea of a special occasion fragrance. Whereas this, I kind of have to look past the, can I say it again? The subpar packaging with this boring plastic cap. What'd you do to me, Chanel? But the Tiziana Terenzi bottles never disappoint, including this beautiful one from what's called the Comet line, and it's called Hail Bop. And I want to pause to say that this plaque on the front and the top are coated, they're plated, if you will, in real gold, and the glass is half blown. The glass is hand blown on these. So really beautiful. These can be very expensive fragrances. Again, this is available on Joma Shop right now for right under $200, which I have to say is a steal for this fragrance. If you don't like messing around with discount sites, you have something sort of in your psyche that won't allow you to shop on discount sites, try So Avant-Garde. I'm an affiliate with them also, and I have a link in the description box, and I have a discount code of Veronica20 that will save you 20% off the full price, which is a pretty substantial discount. This fragrance, though, let's talk about it. This is everything that I wanted the beautiful Shalimar to be. So Shalimar could have easily been in this lineup. It's a fantastic special occasion fragrance. That one, the original, is a little bit too maybe leather heavy for me. There's like this animalic tone to it that can be a little bit much, although I appreciate how beautiful it is. I owned it for a while. My mom wore it, my aunts wore it, etc. And I think I have my bottle sitting on Mercari. That's linked below too. This is almost like an updated version, if you will, of Shalimar in all of the beautiful ways. And you know what else this reminded me of? Because I wore it recently. It's like an even stronger, deeper version of Material from Amage. Another one that has stolen my heart this year. Beautiful, deep, ambery, maybe a little bit woody vanilla with some spices in it. Here, friends, what this settles down to is this absolutely mesmerizing combination of amber and vanilla. Now, vanilla is in the amber accord. It's part of what makes up the notes that create the amber accord. So it's like heavy on the amber. Think about the think about the vanilla that's in the Le Parfum version of Black Opium, the new one. The new one. Y'all know what I'm talking about? If you haven't gotten your nose on that amazing vanilla yet, check that one out. The deep vanilla that's in there, the deep vanilla that's in Material is like that here, but even more amped up. I love that this also has this beautiful cinnamon nutmeg combination in the fragrance to give it a little bit of spicy zestiness without being super spicy, maybe like Coco can be sometimes. This is really, really good. When I first tried this, I thought it was too much. I was like, whoa, I don't know that I can get down with this. It was a little overpowering, but the magic of this, the opening's beautiful. and strong. The magic is in the dry down when this becomes one of the best amber vanilla fragrances that I have laid my eyes on. And friends, I have tried very, very many amber vanilla fragrances. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. You can see that I'm about here on the fragrance, and that's from wearing it, I would say probably 6, 7, maybe 8 times since I purchased it. Each time I want to douse myself in it, but I know better. A few sprays of this takes you through the entire day. These bottles that come like this are for the most part pretty long lasting in the Tiziano Terenzi lineup. And look, let's talk about it. This beat out the Sea Stars, which are fantastic fragrances. Abrivio almost made it in here instead of this one. Atlantide almost made it in here instead of this one. Mirac, Syrah, so many gorgeous ones from this house that are also beautiful special occasions. So for me to put this out there as the one from this house tells you how strongly I feel about this gorgeousness that has really grown on me. Very mature. Oh, just glorious. This has this brightness to it that is magnificent. It's bright and it's comforting and it's like old school elegance and glamour in the modern time sort of situation. Oh my gosh. And I love the look of this. This is beautiful to pick up, nice heavy bottle, and it feels special when you spray it on. Hail Bob. Did I mention already that I would have a pinned comment with other recommendations? If I haven't, I will have a pinned comment below with additional recommendations as I have done in other videos like this, because it's really super hard to narrow down the list and you always feel like you forget something. This next one has gotten a lot of playtime on my channel recently, and I was deciding between it and several other rose woody fragrances. So we're moving more into more modern scent profiles that are pretty popular today. I had this against, and either one of these could have been in the lineup too. Pavilion from Andrea Mack, Atomic Rose from Inicio, Unica from Antonio Croce, Delina Exclusive from Parfums de Marly. But I chose this because the bottle is beautiful, the fragrance is beautiful, and it leans more unisex perhaps than some of those others that are sitting more squarely in feminine territory. And that is a recent addition to my collection that has captured my heart, and it's Fragrance Dubois, New York, Fifth Avenue. I am a native New Yorker. I have lots of beautiful memories of growing up in the city and traveling all over the boroughs, particularly Manhattan, where there are some sights and sounds that just bring up a lot of nostalgia to me. So I wanted to share with you a little bit from the vision of this fragrance. This is part of what's called the Fashion Capitals collection from Fragrance Dubois, and it's supposed to represent winter in New York City, an abundance of gourmet sweet treats, warm, spiced drinks, the feeling of holiday excitement in the air, bottled into an indulgent, delicious fragrance. I don't know that I would call it delicious, but I would definitely call it indulgent and opulent and a very rich smelling fragrance. And I mean rich in the thickness and elegance of the composition, not in that it represents money. Although if you wanted to associate a fragrance with wealth, maybe this is one that would do that for you. It does talk about the glorious summer in New York in the description, but I like the winter version of it. And the fancy winter, which means spending Christmas in the best place on the globe. If you've been to New York City in Christmas and you've had the opportunity to travel in the fresh snow to see the Rockefeller Center tree, to see the Rockettes, that whole thing, and you were able to do it on a night that was pleasant and there weren't huge crowds, you understand the magic that is New York at wintertime and at Christmas time. And I love the association of this with those memories or those images. This for me is a woody rose fragrance with a little bit of muskiness and sweetness in the base. It does open mostly with a bright, fresh, uplifting, gorgeous rose. And then it has this sort of juxtaposition of coolness and warm sweetness in the heart with a violet and a caramel note that are together. I can't say I pick up a lot of caramel, but I can say there is a level of sweetness in this that keeps it from leaning too much in the cold, stark, linear direction that rose can sometimes go and violet can sometimes go. And then there's a beautiful base of soft, warm woodiness and some muskiness here. A rose, woody, musky fragrance. And there's some hints of spice. I don't know where that's coming from, but that's what I get. And it's glorious. It is glorious. I love this. And I love the association with New York for this. And this is one that I think is a rose that's easily unisex and very wearable by gentlemen also, and would smell great because of the foundation of the woodiness, yet it is feminine enough for whoever wants to smell feminine to pull this off as a feminine fragrance. I think this is fantastic. It's moderate in projection and moderate to long lasting in terms of the longevity. This is a pretty pricey fragrance. I would say if you're interested in this, see if you can get it on discount. This is also available on So Avant-Garde with the discount code Veronica20 if you want 20% off of this. I did not see this on Joma Shop. I don't know if it's sitting on other discount sites. And it's also on Twisted Lily, and you can shop with Veronica 10 for 10% off if you like shopping through Twisted Lily. Everybody has their preferred sites that they love to go through. I like to shop everywhere, so all the codes and the sites are great for me. So we continue on our olfactive journey of fancy and fabulous fragrances, and we're moving into perhaps more bizarre territory. And by bizarre, I mean fragrance profiles that may not be familiar to the general public, where you'll really command the room because you smell different, unique, and interesting, and maybe even alluring and captivating. So this is another one that has gotten some serious playtime here over the past year, and it surprised me, a surprising fragrance, and I have really enjoyed it, and I'll try not to linger on it too much. I did want to share a couple of notes from the actual website about this, because friends, Fragrantica doesn't always give you the full picture of a fragrance. I know it's an easy go-to reference for us. Sometimes we get accurate notes and sometimes we don't, but this is Amage from Lineage, which I've talked about quite a bit. So it's salty, it's mineral, it's aquatic. It, for me, smells like luxurious spa oils. I've mentioned that all combined into one. Myrrh and frankincense stick out in this to me. There's a sort of spiciness from a black pepper, some brightness from ginger. And on the Amouage site, the vision that they had for this fragrance is a dream afar away, which I love that. We have sun-drenched horizons, empty lands, the mineral tang of Sichuan pepper, the popular radiance of ginger, and a whiff of sea spray. All together smell like the promise of breaking free from the world. Maybe that is the vision of the spa piece that I get, breaking free from the world, because I associate this with a very high-end spa smell. And moving down the description, it goes on and on and on. It's very poetic. Y'all, the Amouage description rivals some of those long essays on, on Fragrantica. But it ends with a song of salty incense, of mineral warmth and summer meditations. Lineage is the scent of traveling far from home to get closer to yourself. What the heck that means in an olfactory sense, I have no clue what they are intending there, but I do get this like meditative nature from this fragrance. This is probably one of the most unique among the collection that I'm sharing with you today, with the exception of the last two. You'll understand what I mean there. This is one of those, if you sniff it from the nozzle, if you sniff it from a test strip, you may not be giving it the attention it deserves. Go ahead and spray it on skin, walk around, ask others to give you their impressions of it, and let them share with you how beautiful this is. My son describes this as fresh and clean. My husband describes it as, what did he say? I think he said something like mesmerizing or intriguing, and this was from across the kitchen. We have a pretty long kitchen. Yeah. So this is an attention getter in a unique way, not your usual, sweet white floral that's associated with feminine energy. This is some otherworldly energy. So I can understand the sort of association with a faraway land with this. Magnificent. There's a lot of other Amouage fragrances that probably belong in this category, but this was my pick. This next fragrance is sitting on my husband's shelf, although I wear it too. I purchased it for him. It smells amazing on him. He likes it a lot, but he doesn't love it the way that I do. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you trust my opinion when I share with you this next fragrance that has gotten a lot of airtime. It's giving boss energy. Gosh, that sounds so cringy to say, but it's really, really true. This is like a capture the room, own the space. I got it all together. Everything. I walked in with all the things together. Oh my God, these things we say. This is Naxos from Xerjoff. There were a lot of Xerjoff fragrances that could be in this video, but I had to give it to this. In fact, I was thinking about Accento Overdose, which is absolutely glorious green floral fragrance that I adore, and also it belongs in this category. It'll be in the pinned comment. But I chose this one because of its unisex nature and because we're in winter, and this might be better associated with winter, although it is a year-round scent for me. What I get from this fragrance more than anything, a beautiful, bright citrus opening that quickly moves into lavender and honey and tobacco and vanilla territory. Wow, this is what I wanted Lieb from YSL to be, the original. Now that I'm thinking about it, I wanted that to smell like this. And it had the potential to, but it didn't. I can't get with the original Lieb. I like the flankers a lot. In fact, I talked about the recent L'Absolu Platine flanker in the silver bottle in a recent New Beauties video. The thumbnail looks, let's see, where do we want to put the thumbnail? In one of these corners. Check out that video. This is projecting and long lasting and a very, very sophisticated scent is what I can say. This is one that I would not hesitate to wear to an evening work event if I wanted to have a commanding presence. This is the Crisp Clean Suit fragrance. Oh, so good, and would really work well in a formal affair too. I could see this being a great black tie fragrance for a, again, winter wedding, winter gala, something like that, all the way through all 4 seasons. This is so good. It's so funny. I'm in a number of Facebook groups where, y'all, there's some clowns in those groups. There's some clowns. And they really spend a lot of time debating and arguing about fragrances. It's the silliest thing. And so there's a camp of people that really love Naxos, and there's a camp of people that think it's basic and generic. Whatever. I think it's amazing. Check it out. I have to read you the description for the next fragrance. I'm sorry to do that to you, but it's so interestingly written and kind of comical too. You haven't seen me talk about this fragrance in a long time. It had some great airtime in, I think, the end of 2021 into 2022. Y'all, it's still going strong in my collection. This is also sitting on my husband's shelf because it smells so amazing on him, and one that I would reach for probably in colder weather, and probably when I wanted to have that very sort of radiating presence. I wanted my entire room to be the scent bubble with me because it is super duper strong. A spray or 2 of this will take you through the entire day, probably into the evening, into the next morning, maybe into next year. This is Sandal Ruby from Carolina Herrera. I don't know that I've ever read the actual description of the fragrance, like image, what they wanted to evoke for you on their website. So here's what it says. This is crazy. Chili hot patchouli with unexpected fertile soil tincture nuances is the core of Sandal Ruby. I disagree, but okay. A fragrance inspired by the tradition of Middle Eastern artisanal perfumery and the role that sandalwood plays in this heritage. It talks about the opening having rich cinnamon that comes along with crimson, with what is crimson? Lush tuberose, which confers the scent with a, what? I'm getting lost in the language here, but it has luxurious sensuality. That I absolutely agree with. I do think this is a very sensual fragrance, and I do think that it is a luxuriously sensual fragrance. This is the part that cracks me up. The emperors emerge from the base and cocoon all sandalwood and patchouli. So yes, this does open with a lot of cinnamon. The cinnamon for me is present throughout the fragrance. You do need to enjoy that. It's maybe not like think of a hot cinnamon, not just the sprinkle straight out of a spice can kind of cinnamon. It's cinnamon that has been heated up in some kind of really yummy dessert. I can't say that I get a whole lot of tuberose specifically in the traditional sense, but I do get like if a white floral could be in magma form, like molten hot magma from a volcano. That kind of molten, isn't that what it's called? Magma? Think about white florals in like the hottest form possible. And you do get a nice dose of sandalwood and a beautiful, rich patchouli fragrance in the base. Not soil tincture kind of patchouli. It's a different kind of patchouli. Again, if we mashed up patchouli leaves and got like a wet oiliness from them, that's kind of like this. This is so good. When I first got this fragrance, it blew me away. And I think it made my top 10 for that year. And it made my honorable mentions for the last year for top 10 for life type of thing. I don't think I put it on my list this year, but it's not for lack of like wanting, because it is an absolutely fantastic fragrance. One of the most beast mode fragrances in my collection, and one of the most rich, decadent smelling fragrances. This is so, so good. Super strong and worth every penny. These bottles are pricey. I don't know if Sandal Ruby is made anymore, at least not sold here in the States. It's hard to get a hold of. So definitely do a Google search and see if you can get it on any of the discount sites, or maybe it is being sold abroad in one of the department stores, like maybe Harrods or one of those types of places. The next one is associated with summer. It's considered a summer fragrance, or at least it was marketed as that. But honestly, for me, it is probably even better in fall, winter, and spring. I would wear it in the summer, and I have worn it in the summer, but I think it is a deep and heavy fragrance. At least that is my experience. And we are talking about Stefan Humbert Lucas Soleil de Jetta Mango Kiss. So I do have the OG Soleil de Jetta as well. And I think there's some similar DNA if you've tried that. I think these bottles are really pretty with these interesting sort of honeycomb caps there that have a Middle Eastern symbolism, if I'm not mistaken. And so this came out as a mango fragrance. Yes, there is mango in the fragrance, but it's almost like an artistic, perfumey interpretation of mango. It definitely has this buttery, sensual ylang-ylang note and a buttery iris, along with a benzoin and vanilla. This is a heavy fragrance, if you ask me. Definitely wearable in summer. I might wear this on a cooler day. I tend to think of summer as the time to wear lighter fragrances that behave well in hot weather. This did fine in the summer, but I think this is really deep and sensual and almost like sticky in some ways because of the sweetness of the mango. Again, it's a perfumey mango, like an interpretation of mango. If you've had fresh mango, like really ripened mango, you know what I'm talking about in terms of the sweetness of it. And there's a sort of sticky factor of it that I think this fragrance captures well. The fragrance also has coconut. And so in a sense, I think all of that creates this creamy, maybe even lending to buttery, vanillic, yellow floral mango fragrance that's really challenging to describe, but has tremendous presence. Very projecting, very long lasting, very alluring, very captivating, very unique. You won't smell like anyone else. So check this one out. I would say definitely sample all of these first. I think maybe the safest one in the bunch is probably this New York Intense, because if you've sampled fragrances, you know pretty much what like a woody rose smells like. So you get the idea of this. All of these other ones are really unique. I mean, I talked about Coco and Le Parfum from Elie, Saab, and Hail Bop as being familiar scent profiles, but even those are pretty strong and unique. And I would say sample first, unless you are like an adventurous blind buyer like me and you just want to check it out and take the plunge. This fragrance can be hard to get a hold of. It was really hard to find when it was first released. It sold out pretty quickly and has stayed sold out. I would try Lucky Scent for this. I don't have a code, but I would encourage you to use Denise10 from Denise Adore. Hey girl, hey. I often use her code when I shop on Lucky Scent for 10% off of your purchase. Let's go next to Mancera, and I'm going to highlight Choco Violet, a fragrance that I almost gave up on until one day I wore it. I've worn this several times, but the one day that I wore it when I decided to keep it, I was sitting there smelling this amazingness, probably about midday, and wondering, where's that coming from? And it was me. This fragrance is largely a combination of hazelnut, which is a warm, almost nutty smelling, oh, it's a nut, hazelnut, warm, nutty smelling note, along with violet, which is actually very cool, and chocolate. And by chocolate, not the creamy milk chocolate. I'm talking about like chocolate dust, like cocoa powder. Cocoa powder. So this fragrance has a dryness to it that I think makes it very distinguished and unique in comparison to other fragrances that tend to be more on the warmer end. I mean, this one is salty and aquatic, but everything else that I've shared with you, actually, this has some little aspect of coolness to it too, but it has a lot of warmth. The other ones they can be very warm. They can be very warm. This one is, I think, a cold and distinguished fragrance, and it has a little bit of warmth and coziness and appeal from the hazelnut note that's here. I love that this is kept from being too serious by a really nice dose of vanilla that serves as a base for the fragrance. This is beast mode. This is very projecting, very long lasting, but I like that it's unique in terms of being an elegant scent profile for a fancy occasion. There's something about this that feels really sort of cultured and structured and refined that will set you apart from others. Imagine like a I don't know where I get these things from. Imagine a really structured, beautiful attaché case that's leather and it's like a cocoa color, like almost like a brown color. and it's cool and it's calm and it's sophisticated and it's elegant and it's understated, but yet it has a lot of presence. That's what you get from Choco Violet. Definitely want to sample first. Some folks have like detested this and other people have loved it, just like the next fragrance. So let's go there. One of the darkest, sexiest, most vampire-y types of fragrances that I have in my collection that I would not hesitate to pull out for a special occasion where I want it to absolutely smell very different than anybody else in the room, and I want it to be remembered for a unique, sexy, and sensual scent that had a lot of edge to it. That's where the vampire thing comes in, is Black Orchid. Now, Tom Ford did it again by creating the Le Parfum version. So the difference here is that this is just, it's like an amped up version of Black Orchid, which is already really interesting and intriguing. Another one that's either loved or hated. This is a love for me. This is supposed to look like an Art Deco design, the bottles that look like this in general. If you think about Art Deco architecture and the linear fashion, geometric designs, all of that, yes, it comes across like that for me. Some of the key notes in here are a truffle note, which gives it this sort of earthy, think about like an earthy mushroom that is oily. There's an oiliness to truffle that we use a lot of truffle oil in our house to cook with, and I love it. I love that it's earthy. Oily and earthy together, and a little bit creamy, like truffle oil has this creaminess to it. What I love about this is that the Black Orchid line is supposed to capture a deep, seductive orchid scent, which doesn't sort of exist out in real nature, so it's created, and it's very sensual. It almost smells like body odor, but in a really good way. Like you've ever smelled someone who's been a little bit like working out and they've worked up a little bit of a sweat, and there's something really great about the way that their skin smells. A little bit of that is going on here. There's some other sort of sensual imagery that we can get into, but we'll keep this a little bit of a family channel, if you know what I mean. So patchouli, ylang-ylang, the sweet sort of yellow butteriness from the ylang-ylang with that gorgeous truffle note. This is fantastic, and you're going to be noticed and you're going to smell different. And I will say this, anytime that I've worn any of the Black Orchid fragrances, I've gotten compliments. So they either work for you and your skin chemistry or they don't. So absolutely sample first. And usually the big Sephora flagship stores have this line out to try if you want to check it out in one of those places. So what did you think of the top 10? And are there any here that you would wear to a special occasion? Do you agree? And what would you add that's not in this top 10 or in the pinned comment below? What other special occasion fragrances would you tell our fragrance friends here to check out for their next fancy affair? Thanks so much for hanging with me. I know this was a long one. I'll see you in the next video. Take care, friends.